Welcome to Cat the Minion Energy Work. My name is Teresa, but you can call me Cat. Just want to let people know that I have recently finished the pages for my website, so it's fleshed out more. There's still some work that needs to be done eventually on some of the pages, but it's all there in slightly more than an outline. This reading is a pick-a-pile, and the issue that we're looking at is for someone who presents feminine, is in their feminine energy more of the time. It's sort of like, what is my inner masculine like? Now keep in mind that as an adult you have a masculine and a feminine side, and your inner child will also. So if you've done your energy work and you've only worked on your inner little girl or your exterior, your inner little girl, because it's the inner child, and you haven't worked on your inner little boy, then that might be why your inner child does not seem to be healing. And it's sort of like your inner, if you're, again, this is for someone who's expressing feminine. If your inner masculine is showing up with a lot of trauma or identity issues, then their inner child needs help too, right? Because in order to heal the adult, you need to heal the inner child. So it's sort of connected, but we're basically focusing on how is your inner masculine right now. All right, I'm not doing past, present, future. Now what I'm doing is based more on my general inquiry reading. So I normally in the general inquiry, I have a column for wands, which is the spiritual suit. And then I have a column for cups, which is the emotions and psychic stuff. And then we have a card for a column for swords, which is thoughts and perceptions. And then we have a column for pentacles, which is resources in the physical body. Now, because your physical body exterior is expressing I wouldn't say usually. Your physical body has an expression that's sort of set. And if you're talking about an inner person, that's sort of the little dot in the yin-yang, whichever color. Like if I'm in the yin-yang and I'm black polarity, then the inner person is the little white dot, right? The body, the black, is what I would need pentacles for. But since I'm doing the white dot, I don't have a column for physical in this reading. I hope that makes sense. And vice versa. If I'm in the white body, then I have a dark inner. So for this reading, if you're expressing feminine, your inner masculine does not have a pentacles column in this reading. It's kind of like what I do with the incoming soul reading, right? The incoming soul doesn't have a body yet, so they don't have that column. If that makes sense. Now, I could do past, present, future, but these are going to be tell me a story. So I have 3 cards to tell a story in each column. So it's not going to be like each row means something in particular. And it kind of is, it's going to look a little bit like my 9-grid Lenormand spread, but I'm not going to read it that way. I'm going to read them as separate columns. I thought about doing Lenormand, but I didn't really want to. So to begin each reading, I'm going to have a wild unknown alchemy to get a kind of an idea of like the sauce. I don't know how else to describe it. And then a wild unknown archetype that's sort of like the pan that the sauce is in for your inner masculine. Now, I have three masculine characters to choose from. We have Dia de los Muertos Ken, and then we have the captain from Yellow Submarine, and then we have Zorg over here. Jean-Baptiste Emanuel Zorg. I don't know if the captain has a name. Alright, so I'll zoom in on them for each pile. So choose a pile. Oh, is this gonna be... Oh, I was thinking it was gonna be 3 separate readings, but it's 1 reading. So I will zoom in on them. I was like, I need to make 1 intro for all of these readings. But no, the only other reading is gonna be for the opposite, for the inner feminine. I'll make it... Okay. Come on, Ken, work with me here. Alright, his face is painted like a skeleton, and it's hard to get light on him because of the thing. Alright, so he's got his little outfit with his little sash, and this ornament came with Barbie. Some people say nobody cares about Ken, but I always cared about Ken. He never got as much articulation, and they wouldn't let him have a job either. He got to be a doctor a couple of times. Alright, so there's Ken. If you want to choose him, if he's vibing with your inner masculine, or if you feel drawn to the elemental hexagons. Alright, so here we have the captain in Yellow Submarine. He was kind of an old sounding guy, so maybe your inner masculine feels like an older gentleman, which is fine, or is giving like Sea Captains Weekly. Sure. Disarm move 2, I think. In his hand, he can do obscene gestures, and for some reason his legs twist, and then his boots twist. It's a really weird figure. I can't remember if somebody gave him to me or if I found him at the dump. I think someone gave him to me. Anyway, his pile... Now I got his foot wrong, so he won't stand upright. The cards for the captain from Yellow Submarine is the Legacy of the Divine Tarot by Cairo Marchetti. I think the person that does this one is named Calixos. I was trying to find masculine decks, and I kind of don't have that many. And then for Zorg, his little thing came off, and it keeps falling off. So he's got the 0 stones, 0 cases attitude. I got him because I had Ruby Rod. I got him because I have the reaction Ruby Rod and the pop Ruby Rod, and I saw that there was Zorg, and I'm like, oh, I should get Zorg to go with Ruby Rod. So you can choose Zorg. I don't really like these, but I got a Derpy Hooves that somebody gave me, like a little mini one, and then my best friend got one of those like nerd boxes, and it had the Joker Batman, and she's like, I hate this, please take it out of my house. So then I ended up with Derpy and Joker Batman, and then Ruby and Zorg, and then I got a teeny little super guy Sonic the Hedgehog as an impulse buy. I think I was like buying a vinyl record, and I was like, oh, the music store has Sonic, I want to get Sonic. Anyway, you can actually find another pick-a-pile that has Sonic in it if that's interesting to you in any way whatsoever. I'm also rambling. I'm hyper today because I did, this reading is actually based on some spiritual work I was doing last night that left me giddy, and then my back didn't hurt as much, and I don't know if I want to explain that yet because I'm not entirely sure what it means, but it had to do with my, I almost said divine inner masculine. Okay, I guess that's what we're going with here. So, who am I, where am I, and what am I doing? I'm if you haven't heard already, I figured out a couple months ago that I'm autistic. So if you think my speech rhythm is weird, or my references are weird, or my background or pile markers are weird, that's probably why. And if I get like, you know, like, ooh, squirrel, I might be ADHD, which is autism and ADHD, but I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting to get tested, but in the meantime, I've had some fun over on with the other autists on Twitter, which apparently, as of today, is now shitter because there's a big old X in front of it. So, can go over there and look at some shits, I guess. Anyway, Zorg has the Thoth deck. The Aleister Crowley Thoth deck. I didn't want to get this at first because I was like, oh no, Aleister Crowley's like a bad guy. And every time I think about him, I think of Ozzy, and he's like, Mr. Crowley. So, Ken with the elemental hexagons. Dia de los Muertos Ken, or is it Dia de Muertos? They call it, it's slightly, the language is slightly weird on the Barbie and Ken. Or Yellow Submarine Captain, or Fifth Element Zorg. Which makes sense, because we see 2, 3, 4, and then a fifth element here. Which is also a cross, which is also a cube, if you fold it up. Paper crafting. So, Ken and elemental hexagons. Oh, this is element, and this is element. I should have put those together. Whatever. The piles are the piles. The dolls are the dolls. I was gonna get like all Kens because of the Barbie movie coming out, and I was like, I didn't feel like opening my cases and digging around, and also they're too tall to go with these. So, Captain with the Legacy of the Divine Tarot, or Zorg with Thoth. So, pick your pile. If you need more time to choose, just pause the video, and I will see you in your pile starting immediatement. Alright, if you chose Dia de los Muertos Ken, the elemental hexagons for your pile, we're going to start here. So, remember, the question that we're dealing with is, tell me more about my inner masculine. You know, it's I was in this sort of zone where I got like a download about my inner masculine, and I'm like, okay, so what does he look like? What is his name? You know, sort of creating this whole movie in my head about what this inner version of me is doing. And this is sort of a primer for you to get into that same self-care or self appreciation, or like just sort of paying attention to the inner masculine for the first time, maybe, if it's the first time, right? Like, notice me, senpai. Alright, so the sauce, I guess the essence, like an essential oil of the inner masculine. So we have Pluto, which is a masculine energy. The Lord of the Dead, which is interesting because I picked out the Ken here before we even got this. So Pluto, or Hades, is the ruler of the underworld. Pluto, of course, it's not really a planet, hanging out, scorpionic energy, very sexy. I forgot where I was going with that. Just, you know, vibing in the underworld, staying out of trouble. And I'm going to say this is the shadow side, too. It's like any side of ourselves that we tend to ignore is the shadow side, right? Relegated to the basement. Don't come up when there's company. It's like the little kids creeping down the stairs when their parents are having a party that they're not invited to. So let me just skim in the book a little bit. I also noticed that this is on, in the book, it's on page 101 and it's card number 10. So think of those binary series, like 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, and so on, like with computer coding. But notice the binary, right? I have masculine and I have feminine. And notice that 10 finishes the cycle, right? So I go from 1, and then when I go up, I'm a 10. 101. Like, I remember in that show, Reboot, I think when Enzo had his birthday, he was 1, and then he turned 10. I feel like I remember that. Dating myself with that, but that's fine. Alright, I'm just skimming the book for some juicy tidbits, because this deck is still very new to me. It still has that fresh off the press stank to it. Okay, this is interesting. Amplification is a powerful alchemical operation. Notice what thoughts and speech you amplify throughout the day and adjust as necessary. Oh, it says to watch the movie Labyrinth. That's kind of that underground situation. I tried to watch Labyrinth when I was in college because I hadn't seen it since I was little, and I did not like it. It's been like 20 years though, so I'm gonna have to try to watch it again. Deep and undeniable power. Images of the resurrection, possession, the sacred heart, birth, sex, and death are all symbols of Pluto's volatile energy. So your inner masculine might be a little bit extra spicy. Not in like a sexual way, but in like a little, I don't want to say like a jerk or mean, but, or like cantankerous or angry in particular, but like sort of like flippant, like a little bit more like a trickster energy. Not quite like Coyote, but like more serious, but not quite like jackass. When this card shows up, know that everything will be amplified as if through a live wire. Okay, that's what I mean. It's like, it was like your inner masculine is this sort of electric, like bolt of lightning that, what is it called? Insulated. That's insulated by the greater feminine energy. And it's sort of like at times, it's like if the feminine energy wears thin, then the masculine energy comes through in these sort of electric shocks that people are like, hey, where did all this electricity come from? Okay, so I kind of feel like, it says there's no point in pretending the underworld is not at work. And I keep trying, my brain wants to say underwear. So there could be this idea of like, oh, in my regular feminine energy, I'm a little bit coy, but my inner masculine is like horny, but not on main. Like there's a little bit more fire, like like the undercurrent is moving, but the surface is still. I also just, for some reason, I got this idea of like farting under the blankets. Like there's this idea of like how you see yourself when you're sort of not in, like, worrying about how you are in the world. The inner self is like, well, they can kiss my ass, I'm going to do this. But when you're out in the world, it's like, okay, whatever you say, fine. Like, I wish I could, you know, give them the finger and walk out. That kind of thing. It's like a spiciness that every time you taste it, you bite your tongue. Alright, let's see what the... So this is the essence, the sauce is extra spicy, right? Your inner masculine is like Szechuan, it's sriracha, it's, you know, pick your brand. Szechuan sauce. Okay. So we have the shaman. I was thinking that maybe these would be a place. Well, look, it has the back of the card on inside of the card. Now, this is what I'm talking about, okay, right? So if I'm thinking about this as the yin-yang, here's like the white side, but on the dark side there's a spot, a fractal of the other side. I just heard Take Me to the Other Side. It's an Aerosmith song from the Pump album. So we have a snake here. Now, if we have someone, I mean, someone dressed like this could easily be a shaman. Right? Like voodoo. Which is a song that I'm hearing in my head by Adam Lambert. There's this idea of I am connecting to the dead, to the underworld. So not only, I kind of feel like if this is the sauce and this is the pot is a human skull, right? I'm drinking hot sauce out of the skull of my enemies, kind of a thing. Or in this case, it would be my ancestors. Right? Great-great-great-grandpa is coming to dinner with us, and we don't want to waste resources, so we're going to drink out of his skull. And every time you have a sip of the hot sauce, it's like, you know, you feel the presence of your ancestor being like, oh man, that's some good hot sauce. Alright, so let's look at the shaman. This reading is weird. I had no idea what to expect. Oh wait, I need the other book. I've had this deck for a couple years, but I feel like I haven't used it enough to really know all the cards yet. And in theory, if I wanted to, I could just kind of jack in a little, like, you know, turn up the volume on the Akashic record and just say whatever, but I want to read in a goddamn book right now. So I'm a little bit hyper, so this is what you're getting. The Magi, the Sorcerer, and it says the Medicine Woman, which is kind of interesting. Although, if it says Medicine Woman, and this is the vessel, and the vessel expresses feminine, that would make sense. Okay, the shaman can't be rushed. Working with this archetype requires study and perseverance. Think of it like brining or marinating. The content must permeate every fiber of its being. So we're adding some herbs and spices. We're adding the seasoning. I like a lot of seasoning in my soup. We're adding seasoning to the hot sauce and we're stirring the pot here. So, spicy meatball. Contrary to popular belief, the shaman archetype appears in every vocation. Teachers, directors, surgeons, politicians, and poets are just a few of the faces a shaman may wear. Okay, so if you don't feel like you've got the special sauce in your day-to-day life expressing as feminine energy, then this sort of internal like hot sauce that you have on the back burner is where this shamanistic energy is coming from. Or this sort of like, ooh, if I were gonna be daring, I would do this. And if you do the daring thing, then it creates this sort of potent magical event which would be a shamanistic experience, because it would essentially connect you to the ancestors and to like other dimensions, because death is more like taking the train to, you know, D4, D5, or D6. Depends on what your stop is. Alright, I haven't even finished reading this. This is going to be a long reading. God darn it. 3 archetypal ingredients. See, we're adding to the sauce. Okay, I'm going to read this. 3 archetypal ingredients constitute the shaman, and all must be present in order to reveal its magic. Okay, first, the shaman is activated by a long-standing and diligent study. And this is a mentor. Second, its orientation is generously and accurately aimed toward the healing of the self, the other, and the culture. So this is the healer. And it's sort of a fractal thing too, because like there's a leaf, a branch, and then the whole tree. It is the same as me, my family, and everybody. Right? It's all fractals. Like, save the cheerleader, save the world. That kind of stuff. Third, the shaman has a knack for finding doorways to the other world. This is what I'm talking about. Connecting to the dead. Opening the doorway to the other dimensions. And this is called the unseen. In this way, the shaman is a master who bridges the everyday and the sacred, revealing potent power, and I mentioned power, that spicy sauce, that electricity, needed desperately in our time. Yet where there is power, there is shadow, and the masculine energy is acting as the shadow for you. The shaman must be vigilant in studying their darkness. The shamanism could be like a hidden talent. Right? I ignore my masculine because I feel like my masculine energy is dark. So by ignoring my shadow, I don't know why I said that weird. I think I was trying to say 2 different things at once. By ignoring the shadow, that's my masculine energy, I am not tapping into this hidden talent. And when I do, then it'll open up this shamanism to me. This card reminds us that the force of healing is ultimately not our own. We must shape it and share it with the world. Okay, this is kind of that shape it and share it with the world. It's sort of like sauce has no shape except for the vessel that it's in, right? Like the inner version of you has no physical body. It only kind of rides along in your physical vessel that you have. So the only way for your inner masculine to be recognized or utilized or opened and expressed in any way is to acknowledge it consciously, which is, being present with it while you're in the 3D. Hopefully that makes some sense. Now that I've been going for like 17 minutes, we can finally get into the body of the reading. I'm going to make another segment. Okay. So we're going to look at the spiritual column first. This is sort of coming out of the solar chakra, the core, the who am I, this is my life purpose, this is my theology of me kind of situation. So let's look at what we've got. We have beryllium inverted. Looks almost toxic. True gem, honesty, physical world, ornament. No. Every time I see beryllium, it makes me think of the beryllium sphere in the movie The Shadow. which was used as housing for an atomic bomb. They said it's an implosive, explosive, submolecular device. And then Alec Baldwin's shadow character is like, or an atomic bomb. And the scientist guy was like, hey, that's catchy. So beryllium. I feel like beryllium is used in, like, is a component of emeralds, but I can't put money on that because I'm not sure. I mean, there's beryl, which is green, so I think that's true. Cobalt. Also inverted. So we have green, and now we have, like, really dark blue. Look at the cards for after green and blue. How about that? Cobalt comes from mining cobalt under the ground, and they had these little fey creatures called kobolds that are sort of like a cross between dwarves and fairies that would be mining it. So kobold becomes cobalt, which is why it's related to evil spirits, because they're like those little bastards. So inverted, we have evil spirit and radiotherapy with name of the pharaoh strength. 27, and this is 4. So 9 and 4. We got like wheel shapes here. It's shiny. Shiny? Hold on, Ken, don't fall over. Alright, let's see what the other card is. Platinum. So we have Ptah. Now, he's usually shown as blue. And then Osiris is usually shown as green because he's dead, but the color of life. But even this card is green and blue. Now, platinum is like a silvery white metal, right? We have platinum group elements in our brain. And Ptah is a father figure and sort of a humanity progenitor. You know, he's got, I was gonna say, I thought he was holding an ankh, but it looks like it's like a resonator rod that looks a little bit more like the Jed on the top, you know, because he's a Jedi. The Jed pillar. So we have Ptah. 78. Beryllium. Okay. This is that interior explosive energy, but it's compressed, it's inverted. The true gem in honesty, right? It's like, I'm covering myself in soot so that I can not be seen. But there's also this idea of sort of choking on poison. It kind of reminds me of Romeo and Juliet, where they're like, oh, Juliet's going to take poison, but just enough to make it look like she's dead so that when Romeo comes to see her, she can wake up and then they can run off together. But in that story, he was like, oh my god, Juliet's dead. I'm committing seppuku. Or seppuku. And then she wakes up and she's like, motherfuck, he's dying. Well, I guess I'm gonna kill myself too. And it doesn't go very well. So it's sort of like a miscommunication. Like, this is inverted, right? I'm non-toxic. This is the masculine. I'm non-toxic. The feminine. I'm trying to hide my shine. I don't want anyone to see my electrical insides. But this, Ta is the opener of ways. in order to open all of my chakras, I need to sort out these... Oh, come on, Ken. I need to sort out these aspects of myself that aren't really at odds, but it feels like it. Like, why are you suppressing me? I'm non-toxic. Like, I don't, like, the feminine energy is like, I don't want to be the tall daisy. If I outshine people, they're going to attack me. They're going to try to chip away at me. So this is this sort of spiritual battle that's going on. I need to open up to myself, because it's sort of like when I unite these, that the yin and the yang opens up in the center, and I have this powerful energy coming through the middle of a donut. Right, because the yin yang is really a toroidal shape. It's a donut. I should get like a little donut thing so that I can show people what a torus looks like. Okay. So now we're going to go to the emotional situation with this masculine, inner masculine energy, right? Or the psychic part, right? We're dealing with the waters, the heart chakra. Strontium in a kind of weird position. So this is that inner electricity, luminescent self, physical world body, right? And it's not upright because this isn't registering in our body. I have an 11. 3 and 8 combining to be 11. It's like there's an 11, a lot of people say, is a twin flame number. I'm uniting masculine and feminine, but here we're talking about it in the self, and we're also talking about universal timing, avoidance. So the emotion is avoidance. Now, normally we say avoidance isn't an emotion, it's a behavior. But when I was doing sort of a little mini meditation last night, you know, I wasn't really paying attention. I was following along with the meditation. It's like, what is the emotion in your body right now? And it's like, you don't have to say what it is, but feel it. And I was zoned out with my little match 3 game, and it said, what is your emotion? And I said, avoidance. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, no, just go with it. That's what you said. So here we have an emotion of avoidance, of the glowing, the spicy inner self. Ooh, there's 11 minutes left on this section. All right. So emotions. Oh, we have neon inverted. So this is going back to that too. Messenger sign, periodic table, noble gases. Now we have 10, right? So I have 11, 10. It's kind of like a countdown. Or maybe I'm counting up, because these aren't supposed to be in any particular order. So a noble gas doesn't combine with anything. But if it's inverted, it means I'm separated out. I'm too well insulated. Like, I'm not shining. I'm not plugged in. Oh, wait, hang on, was this? I think that was this way. All right, what's the other emotion? So I have avoidance, and then I have separation, which could feel like loneliness, but I feel apart from, or like ostracized, or I feel like I don't belong. That's what that is. So we have gold, also at a weird angle. 79 breaking down to 16, which breaks back down to 7, because anything plus 9 breaks down to 7. Notice I have 78 and 79. Gold is also a platinum group element, which is in the brain. 38 breaking down to 11, 27 breaking down to 9, 4, and then 10 breaks down to 1. This is that binary number again, right? 10, Pluton, 101, 10. 78 breaks down to 15, which is 6. So we have 7, gold. The sun god, Osiris, or Ra. So I said Osiris was green. Related to the tarot, 19, the sun, which also breaks down to 1, because 1 and 9 is 10. Periodic table royal metals, just like that's the royal metals. Alright, so what if this was like at this angle? So we have gold. I want to say, I wanted to say like sunset, but we have an eclipse. It's sort of saying the same thing as the strontium. This is like I'm trapped in the dungeon, and this is the earth body is moving. Well, technically it would be the moon, but there's a physical body moving in front of me and blocking out my light. Like, gold doesn't tarnish, but here it's giving me tarnished. So I feel like I have a bad reputation, or my inner masculine feels like it has a bad hit. My inner masculine feels like he's got a bum rap. This isn't fair. Like, why do I have a tarnished reputation? I'm just minding my own business down here. So we have avoidance, we have otherness, and then we have a bad rap for emotions with the inner masculine. So let's look at the thoughts or perceptions or communication, right? Because swords is also communication. Nitrogen. So we have air in the air section, and we have a 7 again. 7 and 7. So we have breath and neutrality. Name of the pharaoh, life. Okay. I think it's like 77% of the air that we breathe is nitrogen. And it's only like 23% oxygen. So I have nickel. So now I have 2 N's. Neon, nitrogen, and I have... Oh, that's so weird. So nickel, 28, which is also a 10. Breaking down to 10. So this is slightly off. Buffalo nickel. The cost of living, metaphysical world or void. I'm throwing money into the oubliette. Also giving me like the costs are going up. Interesting. What's this one? Bismuth. None of your bismuth. So I do have a little bit of a pattern with B. Bismuth, inner peace, name of the pharaoh, health. So we have a Buddha here, looking like one of those platinum group metals. 83 breaking down to 11. Oh, 8338, okay. So this is, I mean, this gut here, it goes back to the solar chakra. Inner peace. Shiny metal, shiny metal, shiny metal, shiny metal, shiny material, shiny material, shiny, 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 and then we have a breath of air. Every time I see this card, I think all I need is the air that I breathe in to love you by the Hollies. All I need is the air that I breathe. Also seeing blue, like blue skies. Blue skies, blue. A lot of people say blue is sadness, but I don't usually get sadness when I see the color blue. It's sort of like... It's like if green means life... It's like... Green is like growth and expansion, but blue is like anchoring and water. It's like if green is, oh, I'm hungry, feed me, then water is like, I'm thirsty, let me drink something. But that comes in with people's perceptions. The perception is that I mustn't speak about the inner masculine because the cost to my health will be too great. But the inner masculine just wants to come up for air. Like, it's getting kind of dank down here in the dungeon. Like, let me just see the sky for a minute, like, for fuck's sake. You know? Like, just sit and stop like, rat racing and, like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta be me, I gotta be kind of me. I need to just sit and be all of who I am, no matter what other people think. And it's like, I don't even have to do that in public. I'm not even doing it at home. You will feel more full and have more inner peace if you take a neutral position to the inner masculine and sort of stop blaming your sort of hot sauce electrical masculine for anybody looking at you weird. You know, it's like, why do you need to connect to the herd? You're connected to sort of a deeper mystery, but you still have to exist in the material world. So let's see what's in the message cards to wrap it up. So we have education of tradition of the past and the realities of the present, 174. Don't hate the player, 38. So we're seeing these numbers again. Having it easy is not a blessing. There's a lack of opportunity for maturity, 84. We can go to 12, which is 3. And this is also breaking down to 12, which is 3. 11 and 6 is 17, which breaks down to 8, which is an infinity, but it's also strength or justice. I was like, I think my inner masculine is a player because sometimes he's lascivious, which just means, like, slutty. You know, like, I'm making, like, double entendres, right? I made it dirty. So education of the past and realities of the present. I think this is talking about the patriarchy. You know, like, I don't like my inner masculine because my exterior feminine feels repressed by patriarchal society, and I don't want to have to deal with this shit. But you see, with it not being easy, it's like, well, if you came in as a whole being, you wouldn't learn anything. This idea of coming together with yourself provides this opportunity to understand something deeper about the way that the universe works. We're dealing with comprehending the greater concept of duality and polarity by being duality and polarity, right? Don't dream it, be it. I am that I am. Me, myself, and us. That's what's going on here. So I would suggest that if you feel safe doing so, to just take a minute and sit and breathe, right? We want to be like the Buddha, just kind of sit and chilling out for a minute. You know, sit under a tree. Or imagine that you're sitting under a tree if you don't have access to a real tree. You know, like, yeah, just there. So now you have a tree, right? It's a stick figure tree. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know what it's of. Put it on the floor, sit on it. Now you're sitting, but you're on a tree, but in terms of, or you could put it like take the little tree and like sit like the Buddha, or restful any way you want, and then just put it like on your leg, or you know, if you've got a shirt pocket, tuck it in your shirt pocket so you'll be sitting under the tree. And it will give that, it'll tell the universe that you're using shorthand code for actually sitting under a tree, right? Like fake it till you make it. But in this case, you're sort of programming the energy of tree into what you're doing. So sit under your tree or your synthetic tree, like the Buddha, and just breathe and think about the electricity, the shamanistic electricity of your masculine energy, right? They're not out to get you, they are you. And you just have to sort of hang out in the same brain space with them and just sort of like look at them, right? It's like I like all you have to do is be in the room with them. Just sort of say like, okay, show me I'm meditating, I'm relaxing, I'm focusing on my breathing. Now I'm going to ask myself, who is my inner masculine? And just let them kind of appear in any way that makes sense to you. Whether you see them, or whether you hear them talking, or whether you like feel that electricity moving through your limbs. Alright, so that is the Ken pile, and we'll either see you next time or in the other piles. Bye! Alright, if you chose the Captain, here is your reading. So remember the question that we're dealing with. My throat just got itchy. Like, who is my inner masculine? What is my inner masculine like? That kind of thing. I need a further sip of water. This isn't working. I'm kind of slopping this together here because I don't feel like I want to do any heavy editing, so we're just gonna roll with it, pretend that it's live, like, but after the fact. And I forgot to plug this in. I gotta charge the other battery. Sorry for the delay. There's apparently Captain Pile needs a minute to get situated. Alright, hopefully you've got your snacks ready and or your pillow all comfy and we're ready to do this. Right. So we're asking, who is my inner masculine? What is my inner masculine like? Maybe I've never thought about it before. Maybe I'm repressing him. I don't know. Alright. So this card is like, what's the sauce? What's the essential oil of my masculine? For the Captain Pile. Alright. This is sort of spinning. It's kind of flopping around. Let me get that focused a little bit. Coagulatio. Coagulation. So I'm all clumped together. Now, coagulation is usually in English when we say that, you know, I've got a cut and I'm bleeding. When it stops bleeding, you know, when it starts drying up, it's because it's formed a sort of a gel. Like the white blood cells or whatever get in there and they form a gel to block it from the, to block the invaginated vessel from further having a hole in it. Let's put it that way. So I'm bleeding. When it stops bleeding, my blood has coagulated. But if we're having jello, we say it's congealed. Right? I got arrested for carrying a congealed weapon. I don't know. I was just trying to put it down somewhere where it would still be kind of in focus. Hello, moto. Okay. Alright, that's pretty good. Oh, look at this. 66. Alright. Number 66. Alright. Solidity. I don't know why I said that weird. Solidity, adherence, or stuckness. It's not ethical. I'm just reading in the book because I want to. Okay. It says, when this card appears, the alchemist must discern whether the earth element is helping or hindering the work. Is the attachment one of benevolence or convenience? Now, in this reading, I have my soul pile, apparently, my wands column, me, inner me, my higher self, my soul purpose, my modus operandi. This is the cups column, so we have, I just heard heart and soul, like that 50s song, like, heart and soul, do do, I fell in love with you. This looks like a sugar cube with a owl pellet in the middle of it, or like an ice cube, owl pellet ice cube, mouse eyeballs and stuff. And this is the swords pile, so it's like thoughts, perceptions, communication. But like I think I said in the intro that there's no earth pile, no physical body for the inner masculine, because it's inner, right? The physical body is busy being in feminine energy. So it says, you must discern whether the earth element, which is Sir not appearing in this film, is helping or hindering the work. Is the attachment one of benevolence or convenience? Now, for the first pile, there is this sort of like smoky dungeon, dangerous criminal vibes. They were sort of from the feminine's point of view toward their inner masculine. But here, it looks kind of like sticky obsession. Is it the masculine is the gum on my shoe? Or is it I'm obsessed with my inner masculine in some way? But we'll find out more from the rest of the reading. That's kind of weird. Let me get into the other paragraph here. Coagulatio. I did not take Latin, I took French and Sanskrit. So it's going to take me a little bit of getting used to decide how I want to pronounce these. Coagulatio is the great alchemical operation of earth. Oh, that's why it's a cubic. Because it's earth. By way of this operation, we experience that which was fluid churning into a solid formation. Oh, this is the sauce. Okay, so we're literally making owl pellet ice cubes. Or whatever the hell kind of ice cubes. Out of the sauce. Because in pile 1, it was like I'm cooking up some hot sauce. In this, in the Dia de Muertos Ken pile, it was I'm stirring some hot sauce in a pot. This is I'm making up some smoothie, this is I'm putting herbs in olive oil and freezing it so I can put it in sauce later. That's what we're doing. Get some smoothie popsicles. Okay. By way of this operation, we experience that which was fluid churning into a solid formation. It's like butter, like 2 sticks of butter lashed together in a rough-hewn manner. Barbara S. and Barbara W. The formerly disparate... Why can't I say that right? The formerly disparate ingredients begin adhering together into a fixed and solid unit, like this clump here. The result is visible, reliable, and eventually concrete. So we have a concretion. When you hear the phrase, "it is finally taking shape," coagulation is underway. The shadow aspect of coagulatio is that the elements may have come together without much awareness, and in turn they become unconsciously attached. Okay. So, this is kind of weird. It definitely works with the whole Yellow Submarine vibes, too. I'm saying my as in, like, the perspective of the reader. Because when I read and I say, like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, either it's obvious that I'm giving voice to the masculine or I'm giving voice to the perspective of the viewer. And so when I say I, unless I say particular, like, oh, when I was, like, personally, I'll usually make that. So, I, the external feminine... Crap, what was I going to say? Oh, okay. So, if you are externally feminine, your internal masculine can end up being part of your shadow side. Right? It's just, you know, light, dark, masculine, feminine, hot, cold, ego, inner child, whatever. So in my shadow element, I cling to stuff. I'm like a lint roller. Right? I'm like someone who walked into a room full of like styrofoam mini beads. Right? I rub my feet on the carpet and now I got a balloon stuck to my head. It's this, like, my shadow will cling to stuff that provides either nothing or takes away from me. But when I'm doing those things, I'm operating out of masculine energy. So my masculine energy looks a lot like a bottom of the pocketbook, lint covered, half open cough drop that's partly melted. Right, and that's also something that starts out as liquid, right, the sauce, and then it cools quickly and becomes a solid. But again, melty, it starts melting again, which was that whole, like, thing that I said about putting herbs in the olive oil and freezing them, right? I got rosemary and olive oil, it's fresh, I don't want it to go bad or dry out or whatever. So I put it in the oil and freeze it, and then I can chunk it into my sauce. Because the olive oil's going to hurt the sauce. Okay. If this doesn't make sense, then ignore it, and if it does make sense, then good. And if it doesn't make sense, you could rewind it and watch it again, but I'm not sure, but it might not. Okay, where am I? It is finally taking shape. Okay, so I'm stuck. Oh, much without awareness. Okay, yeah. So in my shadow element, when I'm not in alignment, I'm just clinging to dusty, dirty shit in the corner. So inertia and resentment set in, right? I'm wallowing in my lint balls. I'm stuck in the dust bunnies. And I can't move because I'm at rest. So the parts can no longer separate even if they wish to. Right, that lint is staying in that melted cough drop now. So many long-term relationships have a coagulatio aspect. A naturally occurring codependency by which both parties feel unseen or unknown as individuals. Oh, that's so weird. It's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation here. When I'm in my shadow element, I lean on my masculine energy. But my masculine energy doesn't recognize the sort of authority of the larger feminine. And I don't want to say that whoever's watching this has bipolar tendencies, but it's in this, like, oh, when I'm drinking, I become someone else. Or I don't feel like myself today. Or I don't know why I did that. Something came over me. There's the shadow element that neither is integrated with the other, but they're sort of stuck in this clump. Like I dumped all my jewelry into a box and now it's all tangled and I can't figure out what's what. When I was little, my grandma had a box like that, and she said that whatever I untangled I could keep, but it was costume jewelry, but I thought it was awesome. The work of coagulatio is to experience the merging with other while not losing oneself in the mush. Right? So if you have a yin-yang, you have the white spot in the dark side and the dark spot in the white side. And you want to have those separated out so it's not all choppy looking and stuck together like this looks like. Right? We don't want a bunch of squiggles. But when we start separating it out, we don't want it to just turn gray. We don't want a big gray blob. We want black and white flowing in and out of each other smoothly, not in this sort of static crust that it's easier to see on this because there's no color. Right? We don't want this. We don't want a big gray blob. We want a yin-yang, so that the inner masculine and the outer feminine can flow in and out of each other. But there's no recognition here. It's sort of like a backseat driver or like a saboteur that you're not aware of. It's kind of a weird situation. I'm not saying that you're weird, it's just these readings aren't what I expected. So that's what's going on here. Linty cough drop. Alright. So let's look at the archetype. The self. Kind of not surprised to see this. So here we have this rainbow. Even the rainbow is kind of blobby, but we have this heart. It's kind of between the two, but we're going to say this is the heart center. This pearl. Where in order to, like, it's sort of like in the ball of lint, like, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? But if you're kind of like duct taped to the wall, it's going to be hard to stand up. So in this sort of amalgam of everything, the way to discover, like, what in this sort of like trench coat full of raccoons, like, who am I? And it comes from the heart center. So let's look at the self. I was going to say, hold that for me, Gus. And I don't even know, I don't think his name is Gus in the movie. I don't know if he has a name. Tuck it under his coat. Alright, so we're looking at the self. Number 29, which breaks down to 11. I think. Come on, card, cooperate. Weird. I got a bunch of 11s in the other reading. So 29 breaks down to 11, which is the unification of the masculine and the feminine. A lot of people say 11 is the twin flame number. But we're not talking about a relationship with someone else. We're talking about the self. Me unifying the duality or the polarities within me, because everything in this universe has polarity, it has duality, and then there can be a spectrum too, like with the rainbow, but it falls along the line from this edge to this edge, where the point is masculine, the point is feminine, and then there's, there can be gradients, but we don't want to get into that sort of tangled knot or gray zone. We want to sort of understand the pattern that we're seeing. Alright, so 119. I'm so thirsty. I did not know I was going to talk this long. It's sort of like when I end up doing readings and they end up being these sort of like balls to the wall, like power through like dense ass friggin' situations. I'm like, oh, it took me like 3 weeks to build up the energy to do the reading. That's why why didn't I put out a reading this month? It's because I was saving it up for this. I don't know why I'm Harry Carey all of a sudden. Okay, the self. The soul, the witness, the watcher. Can I get a witness? It's no surprise that 2 central mantras in the yoga tradition concern themselves with the self. Experiment with Soham, I am that, and Satnam, true identity. Okay. Sorry if I mispronounced those. I don't speak. I took Sanskrit, but did not really learn to speak it because it's a dead language, and also forgot all of it, and it was like 20 years ago. Well, 18 years ago. And I had a nervous breakdown since then, so I don't remember. Okay. I'm sorry. I should have covered my cough. I turned my head. If this card is perplexing for you, you are on the right track. It challenges us to expand our sense of identity beyond the little self. And the ego resists such movement. What is the little self? Maybe that's the inner self. But again, there's like each one of these slices is another version of the self, right? Masculine, feminine in the 3D, ego, feminine, ego, masculine, inner child, feminine, inner child, masculine, higher self, feminine, higher self, masculine, even though technically the higher self exists in a dimension where there isn't separation, and then we have like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then other timelines of ourself. So that's why there's that many. The hell was I talking about? Witnessing and accepting new aspects of the self. But here, what we're looking at is disjointed, fatigued, or diffused energy and purpose, right? I'm stuck. The self is the prism, right? So we have the spectrum. When the white light hits the prism, it expands like on... Oh, hang on, I gotta get up for a second. Hold on, I'm getting a visual aid. There's more stuff. Here it is. Oh, and it's dusty, naturally. It's like, I dusted 4 years ago. This is bullshit. Oh, of course it has to be split on the front. I'll just use the back image because it's the same. Fingerprints and shit. Okay, so when the white light hits the prism, then you get the spectrum. And this is what we're seeing on the card. This is the... what's it called? The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. So maybe listen to this album if you feel like exercising your brain damage. I'm just saying that because that's the title of the song. Don't think I'm... Oh, look at this. There's a heartbeat on the inside. Badass. Oh, now the record is stuck. Okay, where was I? Squirrel. Spectrum. Oh, okay, I was gonna say Dark Side of the Moon. That's usually Lilith energy. Which is typically, I mean, Lilith is a feminine situation. But that could be tied up in here too. But if you think of the moon is the satellite to the Earth. If you, wow, that was loud. If your external, like 3D body energy is the feminine, and we're talking about your inner masculine, right? 3D body is a fractal of the Earth. So my outer feminine is the Earth, and my inner masculine is the moon. Dark side of the moon. Okay, I need a sip of water. Hold on. I've been sick with mucus, and my throat was sore for a few days. Ow. So, my throat is very dry right now from talking a lot. Self is the prism that allows the spectrum... I said that really weird. The self is the prism that allows the spectrum of our personalities to radiate. So here they are radiating. It does not judge, prohibit, suppress, or oppress any of its parts, as it lovingly knows that all aspects have a time and a place. And some of that time, I said different timelines, and leads us to experience the full breadth of life's offerings. Jesus, those words are all chunky. The self is the central abiding container, right? So this is the sauce, this is the container. The awareness of the infinite universe of possibilities. So that's the container. So when the self card appears, it's a call to step back. It's a call to step back in to witness consciousness, to observe yourself navigating the world. Ask yourself, am I the stew or am I the chef? So this is the stew. It's chunky. We know we got stuff in there. In most situations, our ego draws us into the cauldron where we swirl, spin, and smolder in chaos. Yet the self is a graceful culinary dancer, watching, waiting, observing as the spectrum of ingredients becomes the flavor of life. The flavor of our life. I was sort of talking in a similar way in pile 1 about the hot sauce and the cauldron. And the... Oh yeah, it was the shaman. That was the body. But, so it says, look in the mirror for 30 seconds or more. Attempt to see the you behind the you. That reminds me of Being John Malkovich. Which is, you probably should try to see. So listen to The Dark Side of the Moon and watch Being John Malkovich. Not only is it funny, but it's like people crawling inside his brain to see what he sees and do what he does. And it's this idea of like looking in the eyes behind the eyes. Look into my eyes, baby, eyes. So the idea that the card paragraph said about don't get lost in your own sauce there, in your own stew, that's this, I'm stuck to this thing, right? I'm swirling around. I don't know, like I can't extract any of my identity from what's happening in the pot. Like I'm having a hard time seeing the bigger picture. It's like I haven't been able to observe myself. Like I'm tangled up in my shadow. Alright, that was a long walk together. Let's look at these cards. So we're looking at the Wands energy here. So we have Wands. We have Wands and the Wands. So here's a conflict card, 5 of Wands. But it's inverted. 5 is a shift or a pivot. Right, this is the coagulation. I'm stuck to the shadow side. And this is, I don't want to be stuck to the shadow side. Where's my little cheat sheet? I gotta look at the... Okay. Something in Leo, right? Traditionally Saturn in Leo, but I reassigned it Neptune. So we'll think about that in a minute. Page of Swords. Oh, I just heard I Got a Feeling. Is it the Beatles? I got a feeling. Feeling deep inside. Oh, yeah. I think Tesla did that. It was either... Oh, it's on a mix that I've got with Matchbox 20 songs. I think it's Tesla, though, that sings that. I've Got a Feeling. Which is weird because it's swords. Page of Swords is 11. Knight of Cups, 12. Interesting. So we've got a card from each column in the identity column, right? I've got wands, I've got cups, I've got swords. I want to get a perspective, but for some reason I won't be able to gain the full perspective and to separate out from my inner conflict to sort of the worm won't turn until I hit the energy of 12. -5. Oh. -5 plus 11 is 6, which is the Lovers. It's healing. It's an informed decision. And it's the masculine and feminine energy together. But that's not enough to finish untangling. What I need is movement. And in order to do that, I need 12, because -5 plus 12 is 7. That's the Chariot. That's that movement. And the Chariot card is the moon. Right? Because in this reading, the inner masculine is the moon. And the feminine, regular, like 3D self is the earth. So I need, like, I don't just need to start to have a perspective on untangling myself from myself. I need to be able to express it to someone else emotionally. All right. So let's look at the emotional column here. The psychic downloads, connection to the universe, emotions. Okay. So we have 8 of Wands. Inverted. What's that? This is that Mercury and Sagittarius? Yeah. So this could be Mercury retrograde. I don't think it's Mercury retrograde right now. I think we're getting into Venus retrograde. But at some point, Mercury will be retrograde again. So that might be a good time to be in your feels. But what's happening here with this 8 of Wands is that it's inverted. Shit is not moving. No messages are going anywhere. My internet is down. My signal is weak. There we go. I got a weak signal. 7 of Wands, inverted. 7 of Wands is usually like I'm... when it's upright, we have I'm defending a position or you can't come in here. No girls allowed. Traditionally Mars in Leo. I did reassign it Pluto energy, but we're not really worried about that. Okay. This, I actually just heard it's a letdown. It's like there is no bellhop at the door. My internet is down and I can't get a hold of customer service. Three of Swords inverted. I was like, am I going to see any emotional cards in the emotions? Three of Swords is usually the most emotional air thoughts card, right? It's, I am really sad. Morose mofo. Right? My feelings are hurt and I'm thinking about it. This is like a recovery through thought, but it's only at a 3. So I have negative 15 and then I have negative 3. Now 18 is the moon, so this is the dark side of the moon. But a negative 3 of Swords is usually can be paired with a positive 3 of Cups, which is usually like party all the time or celebrating, like coming together. It's like for some reason, oh, okay. The inner masculine is kind of excited if your internet goes down and you can't get connection back up, because this is an opportunity for you to get offline and stop socializing so that you pay attention to him. Like, come hang out with me. So let's look at the thoughts and perceptions and communication, because it's weird that the emotion is in the purpose and then there's more spiritual energy here. It's like, and I said like cosmic consciousness downloads and stuff. But for some reason we're dealing with like a physical internet. That's weird. Okay, so let's look at the communication window here. So we have the Tower, which is more fire energy. 16. I just heard you're on blast. I got you put on blast. 4 of Coins inverted. Traditionally the Sun in Capricorn, so then we have moon energy. Although Capricorn inverted would be Cancer, which is also the moon. So we have moon energy here, and this is, like, I don't know what to hold onto and what to let go of, right? I'm just grabbing onto everything. It's all stuck together. I got sticky fingers. But this is knowing when to hold and when to fold. Right? I'm not just clinging. And also, I have 16 here, and then the root of putting someone on blast is the sticky fingers, right? Maybe in my Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, when I'm in my shadow element, I've been stealing stuff. And someone's like, I'm gonna tell fucking everybody what you did. And you're like, hold up a second. I'm gonna put it back. As part of my restitution, I am saying that I will put it back. I'm not going to do it anymore, I promise. Then we have 10 of Cups inverted. So now we're depressed. This is like full happiness, contentment. Mars in Pisces, but with it inverted, it's like complete like morbid, sad depression. So what are we even doing? So I have 16 and 4 the root, and then I have 10, which is a binary completion. This is total 7, negative 18, and negative 10. $66 and $29. I'm not seeing a pattern yet. I want to... This is a very... we have emotional cards here along the bottom of everything. 13, that's death inverted. And then 12. This is miscommunication. Because I see this, my internet is down, is half of this, like I'm having words with you. This line here, these three things working together is telling me, like, wait, let me explain. Like, don't shut me out. I'm having an emotional rebirth. But I'm feeling like I'm swimming in deep water. Let's see what these message cards say here. I will not blank. I will not do whatever if you either do or don't do something. So there's conditional love. It's like, I'm not going to talk to you if you don't give me back that shit that you stole. But you won't let me explain. I don't want to hear it. And now I'm depressed. Because I'm just trying to, like, have some kind of emotional connection, and it's getting... like, I'm getting my nads stomped on every time. Observation versus combat. What's that for? So this is combat, and this is observation. The very definition of to land. So after the Fool card, taking a leap, I'm gonna land somewhere. I don't feel like this is complete. I knew there was gonna be a pile where I'd need a couple more cards. This is really long reading. Okay. Here. I mean, I did already clear and shuffle them, but I'll just do it a little bit more. Get a hold of it. Okay, so maybe like 2 more, maybe? Because I feel like some of this isn't really making sense yet. A new view of reality, awareness of distortions. Okay. So we're definitely getting that because we're trying to disentangle from the clump. Like, stop clumping. Oh, that's a screen card. There's a difference between knowing how to do it and actually doing it. Theory versus manifestation, and concept versus work. Okay. So if I want to take a leap and land with both feet, my left and right, my masculine and feminine foot on the ground, I need to not just know that I'm dealing with distortions. A tangle is a distortion. I need to actually do work to deal with that. And this was talking about looking in the mirror and looking at your eyes to see like your soul behind them. And this is the emotional work that this Knight of Cups needs to do in order to gain this sort of spiritual clarity. Give me another one. Unamash. Unexpected and silent movement. Okay. I see a snake, kind of. No, 43 is a 7, which is what we got with this card, after subtracting the other stuff. So, now what happens is, right, you, as the outer feminine, go and you take some time and you chill out and you get a mirror and you look at yourself in the mirror and just look at yourself. Look through yourself into yourself. And, you know, let's say you do it 3 times over, you know, a fairly short period of time. Some, like, a day, a week and a half, something like that. Right? We don't want to spread it out too far. So you go and you look in the mirror, you stare at yourself for 10 minutes, like 3 times, or however long you want to do it. And then you're like, well, okay, I did it, and I started feeling some kind of way, but it doesn't seem like anything's happening. Now, 3 weeks later, what you haven't noticed is that this big ball of stuff has been slowly loosening up. Like, whatever sticky stuff is sort of dried out and crumbled, and the pieces that were all clumped together are sort of coming apart. It's like the linty cough drop dissolved, and then the lint that couldn't come off it separated and is like blowing around in the corner. It's moving. Right? It's like a coiled up snake that was stuck to itself. Like stuck in mud and couldn't uncoil. It's like that emotional water came through and moved enough of the mud, and then the snake started to slide away from itself. But it's quiet, right? It's like not something that you see happening. It's not gonna hop out in the kitchen and flap the doors open and shut and rattle the pots and pans. It's kind of like an SBD. You know, that silent fart just escaping into the room and nobody sees it, but my God, all of a sudden you can smell it and you know something's happened. I don't know where these fart metaphors are coming for. It's really dumb. It's probably because I've had some gastric distress for a couple days. Whatever. So, the point I was attempting to make before we got a change of wind there, the point I was trying to make is that do the mirror gazing or do some other, you don't have to physically look in a mirror, but just sort of mentally imagine virtual reality your way into yourself and sort of observe yourself from within yourself, but from like a conscious point in your mind or from your heart center, right? Try to get into your emotions to see yourself, sort of objectively, but whatever, as long as you're seeing yourself. And then watch what happens, right? Watch your flag unfurl when you when you pay attention to it. I just heard like detangler. Like it's like looking into yourself is like spraying that no more tangle shit on your hair, and then you gotta leave it in for like 10 minutes before you come back and try to comb it out. And you'll see that, you know, some of the hair fibers have sort of slipped away from each other on their own. I think that's the best way I could come up with an analogy for that. Alright, so you will be traveling through the sea of holes to see what you can see. Okay, if you have Zorg, here we are with your reading. Okay, so this is the fire column, the spirit, the wands, the who am I, the soul purpose, the core, the inspiration, and so on. This is the cups, the emotions, the psychic waters, and here we have swords, the air, the communication, perception, and perception, communication, thoughts, perceptions, and communication. There. Like lost the plot there for a minute. Okay. Zorg. So this is like the sauce. This is the essential oil of the inner masculine energy, and this is sort of the pot or the vessel or what that sauce is sort of in. And then the whole reading altogether is like, who is my, I was going to say, what is my inner masculine? Like, who is my inner masculine? Like, what is it doing? What does he look like? What's his name? How does that inner side feel? Like, if my outside is my exterior self, my conscious self is the feminine, and the inner self is the masculine. Maybe it's like my shadow, or it definitely is, and how does that work? So that's what we're looking at here. So we have spring. We're at a little bit of an angle, but we're almost all the way there. Alright, spring. This is a nice card. So we have a tree, we have little fruities on the tree, we have a triangle with fire energy there. I see the vert, which is, I think, means green, even though it says that it's spring, which makes sense because spring is a green season, but whatever. We're not going to go there. Because vert with an S on it is also worm, which is in the dirt. But it makes me think of verify. My voice is my passport. My voice is my passport. Verify me. That's from the movie Sneakers. Spoiler alert. Okay. But not too bad a spoiler. Oh yeah, the book. Hello, why is my phone over here? Zorg pile, you gotta put your phone away for a minute. Okay. Nope. We're gonna look at the book first. This is the third pile, and these are long readings, so my brain is gone at this point. Okay. Trying to get that sort of in focus so you have something to look at while I'm reading from the book. Okay. Spring. That makes me think of, I don't even know what it's called. Birds Do It, Bees Do It. Cole Porter, 1928. It's from Tank. Well, the version that I'm thinking of is from Tank Girl. It was really funny. I saw this meme. It was, they already made a Barbenheimer movie. It came out in 1995, and it's called Tank Girl. I guess it's called Let's Fall in Love. When the little blue bird who has never said a word starts to sing, spring, spring. There we go. It was a long walk for that. 119. I love that movie. I think, like, most of the song throughout the, like, latter part of that scene was the Joan Jett version of that song. Awesome. 119. Where am I going? If I knew how to do numbers, which I do, but not right now. Okay. Blossoming, becoming, and the horizon. Spring has a what's next quality to it. Sit in stillness and envision the horizon. Sit with the image until it shifts and you see something coming your way. Now, if you're looking at the horizon and you expect something to come in, that's 3 of Wands energy. And I would not be surprised if that popped up in the reading. Buds and grasses push up and out during spring. This season has a driving momentum to it, so keep an eye out for impatience, anger, or pushiness. So, spring energy comes in, at least in the northern hemisphere, in March. We have Mars energy, we have Aries. And some of the symbol for Mars is the masculine symbol, right? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars. The impatience, the anger, and the pushiness can be the shadow aspects of the masculine. But this driving momentum of spring is the I'm planted somewhere. That's the circle of the masculine. And then, oh my gosh, it looks kind of like this. The masculine. And then I have energy coming off me like an arrow. This is where I'm unfurling. My driving momentum is pushing my leaves out and buds outwards. So that's one of the masculine energy, the Aries energies. Right, I have anchored expansion. I'm just reading the paragraph. All right. When spring arrives, our eyes lift from the work and we peer out the window of the laboratory. We realize Earth has been in its own transformational spin, readying itself for a new era of growth. So we're coming out of a winter, a work era, which would be Saturn energy, typically in the northern hemisphere, with Capricorn starting winter off. Now, if you're in the southern hemisphere and you're like, what the hell, man? What about from my point of view? It might just be that this pile isn't for you. Or you could say, well, I don't need to anchor it to that time of year. These are just the energies that are picking up. All right, so don't worry about that too much. Or you might have Mars in Capricorn. The work of winter... Wait, where am I going? Oh, I think I already read that. It's generation time. That means generation, usually we take it as like the baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Gen Z. But a generation can also mean like an instance of something generating, right? So this plant is generating fruit, whatever, something like that. So it means it's time to create a generation, a crop if you will. But that could just mean it's time to start doing something. You may be dreaming up... Oh, wow, that was loud. You may be dreaming up a business plan, humming a new melody, or flirting with that special someone. Spring is the season of the east, where the sun rises. That's what we have here. And lights the world. And it's making me think of Mars and a heliacal rising. Like if Mars is in the east, rising before the sun. Normally it's Venus. I don't know if that ever happens. But that's what it's making me think of. I was going to say, though, if Venus is rising in the east, you would think that Mars would be setting in the west. So that's sort of it's sort of an aside. You do not have to work on anything during this phase. Let the energy of the season push through. You made it through winter and the bulbs burst on their own. That's kind of an awkward sentence. I don't know if I believe that there's no work to be done here. What we do have is the masculine energy is trying to expand so that it covers from horizon to horizon. It's giving me sitting on the dock of the bay, like looking out in the morning sun. I used to feel so uninspired. No, that's Natural Woman. God damn it. What's Dock of the Bay? I can't remember the lyrics right now. Whatever. So this is the sauce. The sauce is expanding. So we're making some kind of like beer or like a dough. Like pizza dough, because it's expanding. It's got yeast in it. What else expands when you mix it together? Like some kind of a foam. A froth. Alright, so what's this being contained in? We have the Queen, which was sort of inverted, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. This looks like the moon. It's made out of cheese. It looks like an eyeball, too. It also looks like the womb. Right, because you think of like the lining in the uterus that gets shed every month. And the skin, like the snake skin shedding, and we have a flower bulb opening there too. Like right where the flower is. Where the lady parts come out. Now, in the previous reading I was saying how if the physical body that you're in your 3D consciousness, you're like, I am a feminine, that fractally equates to the earth. And then the masculine is sort of a satellite, would be the moon. But here it feels more like stalagmites and stalactites growing in a cave. It's kind of like the masculine... Oh, I see why you don't have to do anything. It's kind of like the masculine energy is a baby inside of you. Like you're gonna give... It reminds me of Lady Gaga's Born This Way, where she gives birth to her own head. But for some reason, in this pile, you're giving birth to your own masculine. He's anchored and he's expanding inside of your body, like your whole body was a womb. But let me read the Queen just to see what's going on. This is... I keep saying in every pile, this is weird. It's getting deep in here. The fifth element. I think it mentioned love in the spring thing. Or at least in the Cole Porter, let's do it. This is supposed to be metaphorical, because if you gave birth to a masculine, it wouldn't be your inner masculine necessarily, unless you gave birth to a child who was masculine, who was sort of like a carbon copy of your inner masculine, in a way that you would be able to see them externally and be like, oh, I'm like that too. But that seems like a lot of effort and a lot of waiting to be able to understand yourself. So while that may be true for, somebody, in general, what I'm talking about with this reading is metaphorical, right? It's, Lady Gaga, I get in the Born This Way video, she gives birth to her own head. But it makes me think of Zeus and Athena. She birthed out of his head. Like, literally, he had a splitting headache and she walked out of his skull. And that's kind of more like what I'm seeing here, except that it's not just in your head. It's like your entire body is like rife with it. Like it's like in your blood, coursing through every part of you. I'm going to start another segment because I don't want to forget. Okay, so we're looking at the Queen. If I could find the right page. And what I see is that this is number 11, which keeps coming up and it definitely came up, I think, in the second pile. Yeah, the second pile also added up to 11 there in the vessel. This is 17. 17 is the Star card. Aquarius energy in the tarot, anyway. Number 17. Breaking down to 8, which could be strength or justice, depending on what deck you're getting. 8 is also sort of an infinity, and can be this idea of if I take a sphere and I cut it in half and let an orange, and let the skin sort of attach to itself, when I open up each half of the orange, it's going to look like a number 8. So when I see 8, sometimes it tells me the world is opening up. And in this case, it would be the world opening up if you're giving birth and you're gestating to something. For something. Again, possibly not literally. So the Queen is their Empress energy in this archetype. The Queen does not accept the hand of a prince, but claims the throne, knowing the king draws near. She's a magnet for the fully embodied masculine and entertains nothing less. This is interesting because it's sort of like saying you're gestating your inner king, but you're not going to acknowledge it until it's done. Like, my bread is rising, but I'm not going to look at it until it's coming out of the oven and I want to eat it. Like, I'm not drinking this beer until it's been sitting around for 3 weeks and is ready. Okay, I'm just skimming this to see what is relevant to this reading. Like her counterpart, the king, the Queen has a dualistic nature. Either she presides over the realm with grace and eloquence that comes from the heavens to uplift the spirit of others, or she falls into petty, contemptuous moods, casting a shadow across the land. If the king is the ego, the Queen is the expression of that ego in the world. She's the lotus's bloom, the dancer's bow, the moon's radiant reflection. When the Queen is seated in her rightful and righteous place, she is patient and forgiving. Blah, blah, blah. To be the benevolent leader, to embody the Queen, is to settle into deep trust, resolve, and power. The royal Queen fears nothing, for divinity itself cradles her heart. I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen with this reading, because the Thoth deck is pretty powerful, and we have a double over here. So it's talking about dualistic nature, but everything is dualistic. Everything is polarity, right? I have masculine and feminine aspects. My inner child has masculine and feminine aspects. My ego has masculine and feminine aspects. My higher self has masculine and feminine aspects, even though in the higher dimension they should be joined. It's like everything in this universe has duality. Light and shadow, hot and cold. like hard and mushy, gritty and smooth, stuff like that. But this is interesting. It said, what the hell did it say? It really stood out to me. If the king is the ego, the queen is the expression of that ego in the world. So your expression in the world, I am exterior feminine. In the 3D, I'm the queen here. But the ego is the masculine. The ego is the king. And he's not gonna come out until he's got his regalia on. I really want to see what's going on in this reading, because I'm intrigued, because I don't really understand what's going on yet. Okay, so let's look at the Wands column. The inspiration. Let's just call it that for shorthand. So, the core, the self-identity, and so on. So we start with... Nope. Princess of Discs. Is that... Not really. Princess of Discs. Capricorn? What am I doing? She is the Page of Pentacles. It says she's spring energy with Earth of Earth, and I assigned her Plutonic energy. But we're inverted. I think Pluto's supposed to be retrograding through... No. Is it retrograding into... Wait a minute. Pluto is moving through Capricorn. And I can't remember if it's retrograde the whole time or if it's only retrograding briefly in Aquarius. But this is Pluto retrograde energy. So either way, I'm getting Capricornian energy, and Pluto is gonna be in Capricorn for a while as soon as it's done with whatever it's doing. Like a couple of years. That was the point I was trying to make. So we have Pluto retrograde energy here. We have the Page of Pentacles inverted, or here we have the Princess of Discs. What I'm saying is that we have this sort of reflective energy of feminine. Like my inner masculine's inner feminine is slightly out of whack. So we have Seven of Cups, which is called Debauch in this deck. This is usually like too many decisions. We have Venus and Scorpio. Venus is retrograde, but it's in Leo right now. But this is more Plutonic energy. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Venus is currently retrograde. Seven of Cups. It's a lot of people say it's options, and I usually say it's like distractions. But debauchery is like running around partying really hard, like especially with the Scorpionic energy. It's sort of like kind of like slut energy. And I don't really mean that like derogatory. I mean like sort of like sexual freedom, but it's not in a balanced way. It's like I'm gonna go out and consume stuff at a high rate, whether it's people or snacks or alcohol or whatever. And that's where we have the debauchery, the idea of debauchery. Now, if the Princess of Discs is in this debauchery energy, we can see why she's inverted. And it is giving me kind of sexual energy. I see the Venus here and it's saying to me woman. And I just want to say it's giving me slut energy. But I'm not slut shaming. It's just saying like feminine with open legs, basically. Like I'm partying hard with my body and not paying attention to my emotions. It's interesting that this feminine read is coming in with the king, though. But if the ego is residing in the inner masculine energy, we can say that distorted ego is what causes this. I conquer by sexual prowess, but scorpionic, Pluto energy, scorpionic energy is rather masculine, because we think of Pluto or Hades, he's the god of the underworld. And again, when I say underworld, I keep wanting to say underwear. Right? Pluto here is the god of the underwear. And is apparently nowhere to be seen. That's so rude, but it's kind of funny. So then we have the Queen of Swords with her titties out. I guess that's technically supposed to be... No, she's got a mesh shirt with her titties out. So the Queen of Swords. She's kind of off with his head. Sort of Judith and Holofernes moment here. Oh, it's sort of like a... It's making me think of head count. This sort of like... those sort of like incel bros are like really worried about body count. But the Queen of Swords upright is a balanced individual. She's 13, which is death energy, which is also Pluto. But Queen of Swords generally Virgo and Libra energy. Now Virgo energy, why did I say that? That's mercurial. Never mind. Virgo energy is like the inner child of the Empress. And if Princess of Discs is the inner child, that would sort of be under supervision, technically, of the inner masculine. Like the inner masculine is babysitting all of your inner vibes. Like the inner child and the ego and so what. And so what? And so on. I don't know why I said and so what. It's like, and what? I got laid, and what? Queen of Swords. I'm honest about what I'm doing. It's sort of like 100% that bitch, like boss lady energy. And it's weird that it's coming in with feminine energy in the sort of core of the inner masculine. It's kind of like, it's giving me like an everlasting gobstopper that's in multiple layers, right? Outer layer, queen, second layer, pregnant with the inner masculine, but inside of that is more feminine energy, and inside of that is another masculine energy, and then it keeps going and going and going. You know, it's like an onion. I might come back to that. I want to see what's going on in the rest of the reading, because I don't think it's going to make all the sense until it's all the way out there. I gotta have a sip of water before I start the cups column, though. My mouth is all dry. Okay. So, in the emotions and... Oh, come on, Zorg. With me here, buddy. I have to glue that back onto his head. I think it used to be attached. He's losing his mind. Okay, so cups and psychic water. So we have wands energy, 9 of wands. Here it's called strength. Usually it's depicted as like waiting around forever for something to happen. Mercury in Sagittarius. And we have the sun and the moon polarity showing here. So we have, you know, the masculine and the feminine, the sun and the moon, and so on. It's sort of giving me eclipse energy. But here it's showing up as a lower vibration of strength. Because normally in the tarot, number 8 or 11, depending on the deck, major arcana is strength with Leo energy. Now, in this deck, that card is called lust. So if we want strength, then we have to have it here, perhaps. So we have 9. Like, I'm almost done. What's this? Prince of Discs. Okay, combined with the Princess of Discs. So we have a matched set. Is he in focus? Okay, so he's probably Taurus energy, but we won't get up. So this, in this deck, the princes are the knights. And we have Leo and Virgo energy. So Virgo is also on the major arcana 9 of the Hermit. And the Knight of Pentacles is usually pretty slow. He takes a long time to get there. But we already knew that the masculine energy is taking his time. But he says, I'm almost done. Like, I really need to use the bathroom. Are you almost done in there? Let's see what this double is. So we have the Knight of Cups, which is an errant king in this deck, because he's out and about. Is that coming in focused? So the King of Cups in this deck, he's called a Knight, because he's out and about. Inverted, with the Ace of Cups. Inverted. So you have like severe depression perhaps coming in here, which is weird and interesting. Total of 15 here, because the king is usually 14, but it can be a 1, so I am seeing this actually as 11, and this would be 12. So for some reason this 12, Prince of Discs, is overriding the negative 11. If I combine that with the 9, that's 10, that's the completion. The leveling up of that binary from 0, 1 to 1, 0, which is we have masculine and feminine as those ones and zeros. What do you, the King of Cups, Libra and Scorpio energy. So some more Plutonic energy and in a retrograde. And Libra inverted. Well, if I think of Libra not inverted though, because I was already thinking that this looks like something between a time between, was I gonna say October and December? I don't know. I thought about sometime and between now and December. But if I'm getting Libra, that's also saying like between October and December. So something's happening. And I'm also hearing like it's not what I wanted. Like, thanks, I hate it. I'm really upset, and I just heard like I'm dropping my purse all over the place. Like if a masculine expresses feelings to someone, they usually say he's dropped his purse all over, which is sort of toxic. Okay, I might get back to these because this is a really difficult reading, I think. Let me see what's going on with the thoughts, perception, and communication in the Swords air pile over here. So we have the Three of Wands, which is virtue. Now, did I not say that this was going to come out? So you have the Sun in Aries, this sort of springtime energy. These all look like sticks of polarity. The masculine ends are blooming and the feminine energies are taking a break for a minute. It says virtue. Like my ships, I'm communicating with my ships and detecting when they're coming in. I'm looking at the compass and figuring out, I'm plotting my course. Looks really similar to this. We have the Sun inverted, also Leo energy, but inverted is telling me moon, so I'm getting eclipse again. It's like somebody snuffed out a candle. Also, it's like the Sun got put on a 30-day hold, like, you know, where you don't want to read somebody's messages, so you can sort of like freeze their messages coming into you. I can't remember what it's called. Pause them or something. And then we have the Magus. So we have the Magician. Oh, my battery's dying again. This is Uranus energy. So we have Aquarius, which is where Pluto is temporarily. The Magician, the spiritual version of the masculine energy. He's like about to turn a trick. It's like I'm about to come back online. But I'm still curious as to what's going on with this sort of okay, I see what's happening. Usually when a feminine is sort of out sowing her wild oats, it's taken negatively. It's a privilege that's given to masculine energies. You know, if he does it, like, jolly good on ya. But if a feminine does it, she's a slut. She's dirty. Whereas if a masculine does it, it's, oh, boys will be boys. I think that's why it's coming in. It's like reconciling that you can still be a boss while being in feminine energy. But also what's happening is that the feminine energy is giving some sort of rebirth to the masculine energy. Where the inner masculine is coming in with this sort of perception of, oh, this is a dark night of the soul. Okay. Part of this, you know, running around all frisky-like is attached to this dark night of the soul, which is this sort of very unhappy, I don't like anything, so, like, whatever. Or it's like, I have zero emotional attachment to what I'm doing. But I don't care. This is sort of like the exterior feminine energy is acting out, where in the internal masculine energy is nurturing here. But it's the external feminine that's going to give birth to this sort of inner masculine that can, like, lay down the highest card in the deck and say, like, haha, well played, we've won. And I kind of feel like this feminine is like, even though I'm a feminine, I was acting like I was a masculine. in order to feel empowered in the world. But I'm going to learn that I can still be empowered in the world as feminine by nurturing my inner self so that I can recognize my inner masculine and let it be equal in strength to me as a feminine, even if I sort of see it as like separate or something that I created. You know, like I feel like I'm in the mom in this situation, and my inner masculine is like my kid who is going to like impress me by being magical in some way. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not quite accurate, but that's the best way that I can describe it. It's like me and my inner masculine are in the... Me and my inner masculine are sort of locked into this pattern where, like, the feminine gives birth to the masculine, and then the masculine gives birth to the feminine, and then so on and so forth, right? Like, the feminine gives birth to a seed, which turns into the trees, the masculine expands, and then the fruit grows on the tree, which is the feminine, which drops down and creates the cycle all over again because the seed is in the fruit. And the fruit opens up and the seeds come out again. And and that's kind of how the yin-yang moves. Right? It's this toroidal form that's constantly flowing in and out of itself. So let's look at the cards here. Are you there? Please talk to me. Grounding of the heart center. You know more than you let on, or you know more than they do. So I'm going to say you know more than you let on. So the exterior feminine is sort of like waiting around for their internal masculine to be done percolating. Right? We're waiting for the fetus to come to term. We're waiting for the seed to grow roots and poke up out of the ground so we have a little tree going. Like, where are you at? Like, is there anybody in there? Just not if you can hear me. You know, and it's like, boy, that masculine, they know more than they're telling me. But then the feminine knows more than, like, the exterior feminine. You kind of know more than you're telling yourself. You're just kind of ignoring it. And the way to sort of tap into what you do know, and to tap into what your inner masculine is sort of keeping in their little shell, their little seed shell, is to ground in your heart center. And the way that this reading is telling you to do that is to sort of gaze at the horizon. And if you don't have an opportunity to do that, you can make a little synthetic one. I'll use this because it'll stand up better. So, if you want a horizon, that's all you have to do, right? A crappy little stick figure sketch of a horizon, right? We got a little bit of ground here, we got a sun, we got the sky. It's either rising or setting, doesn't matter. We're looking out at the horizon. That's all you have to do to create an artificial one, right? So you tape it to the top of your computer monitor, or to the wall, or to the front of your glasses facing you, whatever you want to do so that you have a horizon to look at. Right? You don't have to have a real one. Store-bought is fine. Like, if you can't grow your own, homemade is fine. like whatever, you know what I mean. So you can have the symbolic essence of the horizon to look at, and you're going to, or you can close your eyes and sort of visualize a horizon if that's available to you, and then just sort of, you know, imagine. It doesn't have to be a sunset. You can have any sky you want. It could be raining, it could be bright and sunny, you know, it could be snowing, whatever you want. It could be doing all of those at once, right? It could be flat, it could be mountains, it could be cityscape, still a horizon. So you're looking out into the distance as far as you can in your mind, on your little paper, or in reality, and you're imagining what this king that's part of you is going to be like when he comes over the horizon. And he could very well be doing a magic trick. And he might be like Sir Lancelot in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where you see him coming over the horizon for like 800 years, and then all of a sudden, he's right there in your face, in his own particular idiom. Alright, so I can't explain it anymore because I'm just going to make it convoluted, but the practice for this reading to sort of get in touch with this, it's like, oh, it reminds me of a hypercube. If you've ever seen an animation of a hypercube that's sort of folding in on itself, that's sort of the same as the toroidal movement. It's basically like a little bead that's rolling around the surface of a donut, right? It comes up the side, and then it goes down and inside the donut hole again, and then it comes back up around the outside. So when it comes up, it's like, oh, it's the feminine energy, and then when it goes down through the hole again, it's masculine energy, and then it comes out as feminine again. So it's this constant loop that's coming, and it just sort of changes. It's sort of like riding around a Mobius strip. It's the same kind of vibe. So for this pile, it's like you don't have a static inner masculine for your exterior feminine. It's constantly flowing in and out of each other in a very rhythmic manner. Now that technically should be happening for everybody, but conceptually it doesn't usually work. But for this pile, for the fifth element pile, for the Zorg pile, the Thoth deck pile here, for you guys, the flowing in and out movement is critical to your relationship to your inner masculine. Right? The sort of constant transformation. It's like shape-shifting. It's sort of like anything you can do, I can do better. You know, or like, look what I can do. You know, like, oh, let's go to a costume party. What are you wearing? Oh, what are you wearing? Well, next week we're going to go to a different party, and your costume gave me an idea, so now I'm going to be this. And it's just sort of feeding off of one another, like this sort of creative compound, you know, like Andy Warhol hanging out with musicians, and then each one is inspiring the other to create stuff, you know, like you know, Frida Kahlo and somebody else, right? Like, oh, Frida Kahlo inspires Julie Taymor. Julie Taymor makes the movie, and now I'm inspired, and I make a Frida doll, and then someone else sees it, and they're like, oh, who's that? I was like, I want to wear flowers in my hair to my costume party, you know? So it's this sort of like chain link of events, but it's constantly a feedback loop back into yourself between the masculine and feminine energy. And I can't really explain it any better than that. If you don't get it, then don't worry about it. And if it's something that's happening in you, you should have a good, you should have this sort of understanding of why it hasn't made sense before, because you're in it. For me, I don't think I'm quite in this situation, even though I understand what's happening. It's, I haven't entirely figured out the meaning of my situation, but I know what it is now. So, for you guys, for this reading, it's this sort of constant regeneration from one to the other. You know, it's like you're waiting for it to come back around the donut to pick up. It's like I gotta wait for the message to come around so I can pick it up and read it. Then I gotta send it back around the machine. So it's like we're passing notes to each other while we're chasing each other around a little track between you and the inner masculine. But it all has to do with growth and this idea of I'm okay in my flavor of energy, and my inner masculine is okay in their flavor of energy, so that we're both sort of empowered and nurturing and sort of expanding in our knowledge. You know, like I'm expanding as a person. That's sort of the whole potential, is saying like, well, I might have dark night of the soul, but I need that in order to explore my shadow. If I don't bring up a shadow version of the masculine into my feminine energy, then I'm not going to be able to work through it and understand which aspects of me are light and dark, and I won't have any movement. You know, I won't have any soil for my roots to absorb nutrients in, so that my masculine can grow the tree, and then I can drop off as the fruit and come back around. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there, and hope that was helpful. Stay tuned for those daily shorts of the card of the day on my social media, and we'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for watching. Stay connected with Cat the Minion energy work. Check out my complete suite of goods and services conveniently from my Linktree. linktr.ee/cattheminion. Color your way into some relaxation with my coloring books Energy Forms and Draco Forms on Amazon. Get groovy with fashion and home accessories from my Cafe Press or Redbubble shops. Decorate your environment with original art and divination tools from my Etsy shop.